Good morning and welcome to Wake Up with the Consciousness Cafe. My name is Lisa Ferraro. I'm the founder and spiritual director of SoulCall Ministries. And this morning we welcome back my dear friend, Dr. Sharna Olfman. Good morning.
Good morning.
And Dr. Olfman is a psychologist in private practice at Insight Therapy Pittsburgh and also the editor of a really fantastic series of books called Childhood in America. I recommend them highly if you have children or if you just want to understand more about the challenges that parents face and how you could be more supportive, more compassionate overall, watching this pandemic play out in various situations. Dr. Olfman, thank you for joining us again and offering your insights. And today we're going to focus primarily on the more adult or college level adult children who expected to be experiencing college in one particular way, but due to this COVID-19 situation, it's quite different. It presents some pretty unique challenges, yes?
It really does. Imagine you are a freshman college student and you've been dreaming about this amazing experience of launching into your young adulthood and living pretty much autonomously as a young adult on a college campus, and then suddenly you find that your college has gone virtual and you will continue to be living at home with your family, or you had the college experience and now you're back living with your family. Or perhaps you're even a graduate student whose campus is closed and don't have access to graduate student housing and find yourself back at home. And so, yes, it's a very unique scenario of thousands upon thousands of adult children finding themselves living with their parents and figuring out how to navigate that. And I think that it requires some empathy on the part of both the parents and the children. Mm-hmm. So I think it's extremely important for parents to remember that if your child was at college, you would not know where they were or what they were doing from one day to the next. Even if you text every single day, they would be adults living an adult life. And that it's really important when they come back home to remember that they aren't high school age children anymore, and to find ways to respect their autonomy and to appreciate the ways in which it can be, such a disappointing experience, and to respect your children as the adults that they are. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, it's important for the adult children to recognize that, your parents have their own values and their own lifestyles, and that, you may not be free to make certain choices that make your parents uncomfortable. And I think what's important is it's not, so children may feel constrained in some ways, but that the constraint comes from a place of respect for the parents, and the parents' request that their children not engage in certain behaviors come from a place of, this isn't about you, it's about me. Right. This is my point of, this isn't because I don't trust you, this isn't because I don't recognize that you wouldn't be engaging in these behaviors or activities if you were living away, but can we find a way to kind of feel comfortable with each other from a place of respect. So I think that's really, really important.
Yeah. So in following along those lines, it kind of opens the door for a new level of relationship and understanding and meeting each other as adults.
Yeah, it is such an opportunity to kind of rediscover each other, as fellow adults. I think it's so easy, in more typical scenario, your kids go off to college and then they get a job, and you never live together full time again. And now kids in their late teens, 20s, 30s find themselves back at home with their parents. So in the kind of conventional mode, maybe you never learn how to re-navigate your relationship. So you come home for the holidays, you're 30 years old, and you're back whining like a 10-year-old.
Right.
You kind of fall back into those, that was not the kindest way to say it. Or, your mom's waiting on you hand and foot because she wants to, because you're her baby. And there's nothing wrong with that, except when it's no longer you're home for Christmas, but you're home for the entire year. And so it's an opportunity for both parties to really kind of look at each other with fresh eyes and to have conversations adult to adult that are different. So there will always be that structure. A parent will always be a parent and a child will always be a child, but there's so much opportunity,
Yeah.
I think, if both sets of adults are willing to engage, to kind of rediscover and reconnect in these really new and creative ways. I think it's enormous opportunity. And it kind of takes away the weirdness, like, oh, what am I doing? I'm 20 years old or I'm 30 years old and I'm living with my parents. I failed somehow, versus this is our new reality. So we can embrace it without discomfort, because this is all the 20-year-olds and all the 30-year-olds are living at home. So we can kind of see it less as a kind of a failure and just as, can we turn this into a silver lining? Can we find, new ways to connect?
Yeah. It's reminding me of when I was at university studying with you. There was an intergenerational experiment that happened at a former Air Force base where they brought foster children in and the elderly who would have been in nursing homes, and everybody had a chance to bring their best to a very challenging circumstance. And so at its most positive, it turned into a beautiful environment. And so I think of that because I think, okay, so we've got the 20-somethings who are still at home, and we've got elderly neighbors or things like this, how we can expose ourselves to, I guess, the most positive aspects of the challenge. Like maybe open the aperture on it instead of just focusing so tightly on this small group to the degree that people are practicing social distancing.
Yeah. So to the extent that we can kind of, take a page out of the playbook of cultures where intergenerational relationships are more normative, because we're at this just unique moment in time where intergenerational living is normative. And to think about the ways in which those intergenerational relationships can be really rich and positive, and to take that a step further, you have younger adult children who have children themselves and who may be living in crowded situations, maybe in New York City, and because they have the opportunity to work virtually, they move back to the burbs with their parents, where they have a big yard and room for their children to play. And if, again, best case scenario, the grandparents are retired and have opportunity and desire to babysit, it can be a beautiful, amazing moment where we, come to understand why intergenerational living can be a really, really beautiful and positive thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the challenging side, not every family gets along like that. What kind of advice can we offer people who are looking forward to getting out of a really seriously dangerous, not optimal situation?
Right. Yeah. I think that's really tough. It's tough from a mental health perspective. If, adult children needed to get away from parents who had historically been abusive and find themselves, for financial or other reasons, back living at home. You can have elderly parents who find themselves in elder abuse scenarios. So yes, when you kind of force generations back together, where perhaps it would have been best for them to to separate and find their own spaces and create healthy boundaries. It can be incredibly challenging. I think another way in which it can be challenging is just around physical safety, in
Uh-huh.
the sense that, you know, if you're 19, your idea and in reality, what is safe for you may be different from what is safe for your 60-year-old parents.
Mhm.
Um, and navigating, you know, lifestyle differences. So you're 20 years old and you want to hang out with your friends, but your parents are trying to be very, very cautious. And how do you respectfully, you know, create, you know, boundaries that make everyone feel safe? And so this can be a very, very challenging situation. And I would say, to the extent that it is possible to advocate for yourself and to create safe boundaries, and to, you know, to the extent that you can create those safe boundaries physically, you do so. And to the extent that you find yourself forced together and it's really not healthy, again, this is, you know, under less than optimal circumstances to create healthy psychological boundaries, you know, to, you know, remind yourself of who you are and what feels safe and what messaging you choose to, you know, push back against. Um, but at the same time, to appreciate that, um, you know, as would always be the case, if you feel unsafe, to seek help, you know, to go to an authority, to seek help, you know, when you need to, and not say, well, this is my situation.
So advocate for yourself.
Absolutely,
That's
advocate for yourself.
Yeah, that's really important, an important one. And following along in the adult development, mentioning people who are already through college. I know I know some friends personally who have a sense of impending kind of doom, or just the degree of uncertainty for that generation. Just some of them, they finished school, they haven't found a job, but they're saddled with debt. What can we say to, how can we speak to them? Like, the rates of depression are increasing around the pandemic. Just finding
Yeah.
some healthy opportunities. I know we're talking about getting out into nature, trying to maintain some quality of physical health helps to promote mental health.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. This is really the moment for integrative health. And so, on the one hand, if you feel completely sane,
Yeah.
you're not sane. These are very, very challenging
Right.
times. There are very real kind of, you know, we are in the midst of a very real pandemic where, you know, we've got wildfires raging in California. We've got, you know, here in the US, an upcoming election that has been completely polarizing. We have a lot of very real fears and unrest. We have, you know, Black Lives Matter, which, you know, has really opened up some very, very concerning issues around racism in this country. And so, if you're paying attention, you're concerned and you feel burdened by these very, very real concerns. And so, I think, you know, just putting on the rose-colored glasses, that's not the way forward. You know, we have to kind of engage with what is real and what is in front of us. And so again, you've got to put on your own oxygen mask first. And so while this may sound trivial, while literally, you know, part of the country is literally burning, um, that I'm a big believer that it is so important to get outside every day. If you have access to a nature trail, walk that trail as often as you can,
Mhm.
start a garden, eat well, nourish yourself, and then connect with like-minded people. Find people who share your values,
Right.
who share your beliefs. Get involved. Feel like you're an advocate for change, as opposed to just sort of feeling doomed. And know, and this is so important, you know, we're such an individual society, and we feel like, I can't do it. I can't turn this around. I feel helpless. But when you discover that there are so many like-minded young adults and older adults who are doing beautiful, like you are, Lisa, who are doing beautiful things in the world to advocate for change and to create opportunities and to have a different vision of what the world can be, you know, you feel less alone and you feel less helpless. And you realize, no, you alone cannot turn this around, but you can join thousands, millions of others who see the world as you do and very much want change, and that can really change how you feel, from feeling isolated and helpless to feeling like you're part of a movement, for really beautiful and positive change in the world.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. It was part of a talk I did a couple of weeks ago on Awake and Ready, and making an effort to engage that population who's mostly graduated and they feel like they've been left out.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking up, a lot of them don't have an interest in voting. I'm generalizing, but and so to connect and find your voice is an empowering. It does something cellularly. It opens
Right.
us up in a way that makes us feel part of the aliveness of life
Right.
and getting back engaged in it. Especially
Absolutely.
in a time of uncertainty, take some definitive steps for yourself, and you'll meet others who are doing the same, whether you can be physically
100%.
together.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's a really
Absolutely.
valuable point. So I'm hearing again this compassion for self, and recognize it is a really challenging time. If you're not feeling it, you're not normal like the rest of us. I'm just kidding.
Right.
No,
Right.
it's it
Yeah.
is tough. So it's going to feel different, and honor
Yeah,
that, but find ways to connect.
exactly. And, just to kind of go with that point a little bit more, that we're a culture that's so afraid to feel. You
Yeah.
always have to have a nice day, and I'm great, and everything's good, that it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to be concerned. It's okay to be angry. It's what we do with those feelings. Do we take those feelings and just kind of bury ourselves in self-pity, and, or do we kind of listen to those feelings and use them as, kind of guideposts to how we have to move forward? And do we give other people in our lives permission to express, today I'm having a bad day.
Yeah.
Today I feel sad. Today I feel a bit hopeless. And rather than rushing them into solutions, well, here's what you have to do. You've got to do A, B, and C, and you'll feel better. And, put on your best, put your best foot forward, to sometimes sit with them and then, together kind of find that path forward. But first, you have to acknowledge the validity of the feeling in order to move forward from that feeling.
So valuable, so important. It's very, very. It's so on time, all the time, and now maybe more than ever for all of us together. And again, having compassion for what each other's dealing with, like the person that cuts us off in traffic. Or I had a friend a lot of people are upset about the mask wearing, the not mask wearing. Just don't get caught up in it.
Right,
They've got their reasons. You don't have to understand what they're going through. Just
right,
allow yourself your feelings.
right. And,
Yeah.
be true to your choices and navigate the world in a way that feels authentic to you, and find your people.
Excellent. Find your people and feel your feelings. Dr.
Yes.
Sharna Olfman, it's always such a treat to be in your presence and to have you sharing your wisdom. Thank you for being with us on Wake Up with the Consciousness Cafe. And once again, the book series is Childhood in America, and Dr. Olfman is with Insight Therapy Pittsburgh. Thank you.
It was such a pleasure to connect with you once again, Lisa. Thank you for this opportunity.
You're welcome. And remember, wherever you are, feel your feelings, step into the fullness of your own life, and watch how you blossom on the same beautiful tree as others And always remember that you are loved.